It was nearly midnight when Officer Dana McAllister turned her cruiser onto a quiet stretch of Highway 47 just a few miles outside the sleepy town of Rosefield, Missouri. The two-lane road was barely lit, flanked on either side by thick pinewoods that whispered eerily in the cold breeze. Her headlights cut through the darkness like a blade, illuminating nothing but the endless ribbon of asphalt and the occasional startled raccoon. It was supposed to be a routine patrol. Dana had just radioed in her check-in with dispatch, her voice calm and casual. Nothing ever really happened out here. Not in Rosefield. At least, not until that night. As she drove along, Dana's thoughts wandered to her daughter, Rachel, who had just turned 10. She'd promised her pancakes in the morning, and she smiled thinking about how serious Rachel got when she flipped them like she was performing heart surgery. Dana often worked nights, but she always tried to keep mornings sacred. A little pocket of warmth in an otherwise cold world. Then she saw a small figure lying motionless by the edge of the road, half in shadow, half illuminated by her high beams. Dana's heart kicked up a beat. She hit the brakes, tires crunching against the gravel as she pulled over. She stepped out, hand instinctively reaching toward her sidearm just in case. The air was frigid. Her breath came out in puffs as she approached the figure. It was a child. A little boy, no older than 8 or 9, wearing a torn hoodie and mismatched shoes. His jeans were caked with dirt and he lay curled on his side like he'd simply collapsed from exhaustion. His hands were scraped and one knee was bleeding. But what stopped Dana cold wasn't the bruises or the scratches. It was his forehead. A strange symbol was etched into the skin, almost like a burn. A jagged shape resembling an angular spiral, red and slightly raised, glowing faintly in the moonlight. What the hell? Dana whispered, kneeling down beside him. Hey, kid, can you hear me? The boy stirred, groaning softly. It's okay, she said gently. You're safe now. I'm Officer McAllister. Can you tell me your name? The boy's eyes fluttered open, glassy, and frightened. He looked up at her, then his lips trembled. They're coming, he whispered hoarsely. Don't let them take me. Dana's stomach twisted. Who's coming? But the boy passed out before he could answer. Dana quickly radioed for an ambulance, her voice urgent now, edged with something unfamiliar, dread. As she looked again at the strange mark on his forehead, she couldn't shake the feeling that tonight wasn't going to be routine after all. The ambulance arrived within 10 minutes, but to Dana it felt like hours. She'd wrapped the boy in a thermal blanket from her trunk and kept him close in the front seat of her cruiser to shield him from the biting wind. His breathing was shallow but steady, his lips slightly parted as he mumbled unintelligibly in his sleep, if it was sleep at all. She kept glancing at that symbol. It didn't look like any tattoo or injury she'd seen in her 10 years on the force. It looked deliberate, almost ancient. Paramedics rushed him into the back of the ambulance, giving her a quick nod. He's stable for now. Shock, dehydration, couple scrapes and bruises. No ID on him. Nothing, Dana replied. He was just lying there. No backpack, no shoes that match, no sign of another vehicle, adult, or even footprints. One of the medics, a young woman with a clipboard, gave her a raised brow. Weird. That's not even the weirdest part, Dana muttered. You mean the thing on his forehead? The medic asked, lowering her voice. What is that? Looks almost like branding. Dana didn't answer. She didn't have one. As the ambulance drove off toward Rosefield General, Dana climbed back into her cruiser and sat still for a long moment. She replayed the boy's words in her head, they're coming. Don't let them take me. She shook off the chill crawling up her spine and started the engine. She had questions. A lot of them. But her first stop wasn't the hospital, it was the station. She needed to run that symbol through every database she had access to. The Rosefield police station was a modest brick building, half a dozen offices and a bullpen, a far cry from the bigger departments Dana had worked at years ago. But she liked it here. It was slower, safer. She thought she had left the chaos behind, until tonight. She sat at her desk, lights dimmed, sipping bitter coffee while the symbol glowed from her computer screen. She'd taken a quick photo of the boy's forehead before the ambulance left. The software had trouble categorizing it, no matches in gang tattoos, cult insignias, or common medical scars. She leaned back, frustrated. It looked tribal. Maybe Celtic? But there was something distinctly wrong about it. It had too many sharp turns, angles that didn't make sense. A knock at the door made her flinch. It was Deputy Ray Klein, tall, balding, with kind eyes and a gut that betrayed his love of donuts. Hey, he said, holding a sandwich. Heard you found a kid on the road. You okay? Dana nodded. Yeah. Just trying to figure out what this symbol is. Ray stepped closer and looked at the screen. The color drained from his face. You've seen this before? She asked. Ray swallowed hard, the sandwich forgotten in his hand. You need to talk to Pastor Hill. Now. Dana didn't wait for more explanation. When Ray Klein, usually the most unshakable guy in the room, tells you to see a pastor in the middle of the night, you don't ask why. You move. Within 15 minutes, Dana was pulling into the gravel parking lot of St. Andrew's Chapel, the oldest church in Rosefield. The structure stood like a ghost in the darkness, wooden beams bleached from time, stained glass windows dull and asleep in the absence of sunlight. But there was light in the rectory. She knocked on the side door with the badge on her chest and a whole lot of questions in her head. Moments later, the door creaked open. Pastor Elijah Hill stood barefoot in the doorway wearing an old sweater and holding a leather-bound Bible in one hand like it had grown there. He looked tired but not surprised. Officer McAllister, he said in his smooth southern drawl. Ray called ahead. Come in. Inside, the rectory was warm with the faint scent of cedar and candle wax. Dana followed him into a study lined with shelves of dusty old books, most of them religious, but some titles looked more esoteric. She didn't sit. You've seen this, she said, pulling out her phone and showing him the photo. Pastor Hill took one glance and his lips tightened. Yes, he said grimly. But not for a very long time. Dana crossed her arms. What is it? He motioned to a worn volume on the desk and opened it to a bookmarked page. There, drawn in faded ink, was the exact same symbol. This is called the Spiral of Thesos, Pastor Hill explained. It's not biblical, not really. It predates most known organized religion. Some say it's a mark placed on those who have been chosen, but not by God. Dana frowned. Chosen for what? The texts don't agree. Some claim it's a curse. Others believe it's a protection symbol twisted by dark forces. Either way, whenever the symbol shows up, he paused, staring into the distance. Bad things happen. Dana leaned over the book, heart thudding. What kind of bad things? Disappearances. Murders. Accidents that defy explanation. But always, there's a child with that mark. And always, they warn of someone or something coming for them. Dana's blood turned to ice. The boy said that too. They're coming. Don't let them take me. Pastor Hill closed the book slowly. Then you'd best believe him. And keep him hidden. Dana blinked. From who? Or what? The pastor looked her dead in the eyes. There are things that walk this earth, officer. Things that no badge or gun can stop. Just then, her radio crackled to life. Unit 12, we have a situation at Rosefield General. Code red. Officer McAllister, respond. Dana's hand went to her shoulder. Mike, this is Unit 12. What's the emergency? The dispatcher's voice trembled through the static. The boy's gone. And there's blood everywhere. Dana's cruiser tore through the empty streets of Rosefield, sirens wailing, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. The hospital loomed ahead like a lighthouse in the dark, floodlights casting long shadows across the parking lot. Even before she slammed the car into park, she saw the commotion at the entrance, officers taping off the ER doors, nurses huddled together in shock, and the unmistakable crimson smears leading into the building. She rushed inside, ducking under the tape. Deputy Garcia was already there, pacing near the nurse's station, eyes wide. What the hell happened? Dana demanded. Garcia turned to her. They said he just disappeared. Disappeared? She barked. How does a kid just vanish from a hospital? He swallowed. Room 304. You need to see it. Dana bolted down the hall, her boots echoing on the linoleum. The door to room 304 stood open. The walls inside were splattered with blood, not a pool, not a body, just erratic, sweeping strokes as if someone had swung a brush dipped in red paint. The bed was overturned, the window was shattered inward, and the force stand was bent like something massive had barreled through, but there was no boy.no sign of where he'd gone. Just a single handprint in blood on the window frame, tiny, child-sized. Dana's heart raced. Was anyone on duty? Did anyone see anything? Garcia appeared behind her. One nurse caught a glimpse on the security cam. She's shaken up, but she said something about shadows, long ones. And chanting. Like voices whispering in the walls. Dana stared at him. You're telling me shadows and whispers took a kid? I'm telling you what she said. And Dana, this doesn't look like any kind of abduction. There's no sign of a break-in. No footage of anyone entering or leaving. It's like he vanished into thin air. Dana stepped out into the hallway, her mind spinning. What the hell had she gotten herself into? She called dispatch. Get me the hospital's security footage from the last 2 hours. Every angle. Every floor. Yes, ma'am. She ended the call and turned back to the room, but something caught her eye. Just beside the bed, half hidden under a tangle of sheets. A page. Torn from a book. She picked it up carefully. The paper was thick, old. The text was handwritten in faded ink, Latin or Greek maybe, and at the center of the page was that same spiral symbol, burned into the parchment. Beneath it, a single English phrase had been scrawled in crimson ink. He is marked. He must not return. A cold chill slid down Dana's spine. She folded the page, placed it in an evidence bag, and looked out the broken window toward the forest that lined the hospital grounds. She didn't know who he was, but someone or something was terrified of him coming back, and they were willing to spill blood to keep it that way. Back at the station, the hospital footage was waiting. Dana watched intently with Deputy Garcia and the night tech, Marcus. The screen showed room 304, time-stamped just 30 minutes before the emergency call. The boy lay on the bed, still and quiet, and 4 in his arm. Then, the footage flickered 0.1 second. Everything was normal. The next, it wasn't. A dark distortion rippled through the frame. The lights dimmed. The boy suddenly sat up, eyes wide, staring at the wall. His mouth moved, though no sound came through. Then, the shadows arrived, long, impossible tendrils spilled into the room, not cast by any object or person. They slithered along the ceiling and walls like smoke made solid. The boy tried to scream, but the lights blew out. The camera went black. When it came back, 20 seconds later, the room was a blood-smeared mess. Marcus leaned back in his chair, pale. I've never seen anything like that. Dana's jaw clenched. Pull footage from the hallway outside. Now. Marcus switched feeds. The hallway remained empty, until something strange appeared. A black silhouette, tall, thin, and vaguely human, emerged from the stairwell at the far end. It didn't walk. It glided. The camera glitched again. When the static cleared, the figure was gone. Garcia rubbed his temple. Jesus! Dana stood. This isn't just a runaway kid. This is something way beyond us. Garcia hesitated, then asked, what did Pastor Hill say again? About others who'd had the mark. Dana pulled the torn page from her pocket and showed it to him. He said it predates Christianity, and that bad things follow these kids. Disappearances, death, darkness. Garcia raised a brow. So, what, he's cursed? Dana shook her head. I don't think he's the one cursed. I think we are, if we don't figure out what's going on. She picked up the landline. I'm going to see Pastor Hill again. Before she could dial, Marcus interrupted. You might want to see this first. He clicked to another feed, this time from an exterior camera behind the hospital. Trees swayed in the distance. The night was still. Then, just past the tree-lean movement, a flicker of small legs, bare feet, darting into the forest. The boy, Dana whispered. It was him, clearly injured but running fast, as if he were being chased. There's nothing but woods out there, Garcia said. Miles of it. Dana stared at the monitor, then made her decision. Not nothing, she muttered. There's something out there, about 5 miles out. An old place my dad used to talk about when I was a kid. Garcia frowned. Where? East Ridge Asylum. It's been abandoned for over 50 years. Marcus swallowed hard. You think he ran there? I don't know, Dana said, already grabbing her keys. But if he did, we might be the only chance he's got. She turned to Garcia. You coming? The road to East Ridge Asylum was barely a road anymore. Just a cracked trail of forgotten concrete, strangled by weeds and pine roots. Dana's cruiser crept along slowly, headlights sweeping across the towering trees. Garcia rode shotgun resting between his knees, eyes fixed ahead like he was waiting for something to jump out. Tell me again why we're going to a haunted asylum in the middle of the night? He muttered. Because if I were a scared, marked kid being chased by shadow monsters, Dana said grimly, I'd go where no one else would follow. The asylum emerged suddenly, like a corpse rising from the earth. Massive, gray, and half swallowed by ivy. The old iron gate was broken. One side leaned inward like it had been rammed long ago. The stone letters over the arch still read, East Ridge State Hospital for the Mentally Infirm. The building had been closed since 1972, after a fire killed 14 patients. Rumors swirled about abuse, illegal experiments, satanic rituals, urban legends mostly. But now, with what she'd seen tonight, Dana was starting to think some legends had teeth. They parked outside and stepped out into the silence. The air felt wrong, still but charged, like the forest was holding its breath. "Stay close," Dana said, flashlight in one hand, service weapon in the other. They moved through the crumbling front doors and into a vast lobby coated in dust. The beam of her flashlight sliced through the darkness, revealing broken wheelchairs, fallen beams, and graffiti scrawled in angry neon colors. Something skittered in the distance. Maybe a rat. Maybe not. The deeper they went, the colder it got. Every hallway twisted like a maze. Water dripped from the ceiling in rhythmic ticks. Then, they heard it. A voice. Faint. Fragile. "Help me." Dana spun toward the sound. "You hear that?" Garcia nodded, tense. Down the west corridor. They followed the voice through peeling doors and warped tile until they reached a stairwell that descended into pitch black. The basement. "Of course it's the basement," Garcia muttered. Dana smirked despite the fear gripping her gut. "You scared?" "I'm a black man following a horror movie script in real life." "Yes, I'm terrified." They stepped carefully down the stairs, flashlights flickering as the air thickened. The walls were smeared with soot and faded handprints. Some small, like children's. In the farthest room. They found him. The boy sat in the center of the floor, knees pulled to his chest, shivering. His clothes were torn, and the spiral on his forehead was brighter now, almost glowing in the dark. Dana rushed forward. Hey, it's okay. You're safe now." But the boy looked up, and his eyes were completely black. "No one is safe," he whispered. Then, the walls began to shake. From the darkness behind them came a roar. Not human. Deep, guttural, ancient. Dana turned, gun raised. Garcia shouted. A shadow peeled off the wall. Tall and clawed, eyes like burning coals. It stepped forward. And then, everything went black. Darkness wasn't just the absence of light. It had mass here. It pressed on Dana's body, wrapped around her like ice-cold chains. She blinked hard, trying to find her bearings. The flashlight had gone dead. Her gun was missing from her grip. She felt the cracked tile beneath her palms as she tried to rise. Then came the whispering. It wasn't in her ears. It was in her head. Thousands of voices speaking all at once, in tongues that sounded older than time. "Dana." She froze. The voices knew her name. "Return him to us." Her heart pounded. "Who are you?" She managed to croak. "We are the Watchers. We are the Wardens of the Seal. And he is the key." A pale blue light flickered across the room, revealing the boy once more, still sitting cross-legged in the center of the floor. Except now, he was surrounded by glowing runes etched into the ground. His eyes were back to normal, wide and terrified. Garcia lay a few feet away, groaning but alive. Dana crawled toward the boy. "Are you hurt?" He didn't respond, just shook his head slowly. "I told you," he whispered. "They would come." The shadows stirred around the walls again, writhing, forming twisted shapes. Too many limbs, too many faces. Dana pulled Garcia up and helped him to his feet. "We're getting out of here," she said, voice shaking. But the boy didn't move. "I can't leave the circle," he said. "What if I do? They take me." Dana looked down. The runes surrounding him pulsed rhythmically, like a heartbeat, as if they were keeping something out, or keeping him in. "Who put you here?" she asked. The boy looked up at her. "My father." Dana knelt down. "Where is he now?" The boy hesitated, eyes filling with tears. "He's dead. He tried to stop the ritual. But they came anyway." Dana's mind raced. None of this made sense. Or maybe it did, and she was just too grounded in reality to admit it. Garcia finally spoke. "We can't stay. That thing's still here." As if summoned, the temperature dropped even further. Frost crept across the tiles. And then another shadow emerged from the far wall. This one wasn't wild like the others. It had formed. A tall, humanoid figure cloaked in swirling black mist. its face a void, its hands long and skeletal. From beneath its cloak came the sounds of children sobbing, screaming, and laughing. Interwoven in a sickening chorus, it stepped toward them, passing through the runes, but stopped just before the boyd hissed. Recoiling as if burned, Dana raised her arms protectively. "What do you want?" she shouted. The creature tilted its head, as if studying her. Then, it spoke. "He must be returned, or the seal breaks." Suddenly, all the whispers stopped. The room fell silent. The boy looked up at Dana, eyes wide with fear. "If the seal breaks," he said softly, "they all come through." Dana stared at the boy and realized this wasn't about saving him. It was about saving everyone else. Dana couldn't move. The creature, the Watcher, stood just feet away, radiating dread so thick it choked the air. Its presence twisted gravity, bent logic, and filled her with one undeniable feeling. This thing had never been human. Garcia staggered forward, holding his side, bleeding. "We need to get him out of here," he whispered, clutching his side. "Whatever the thing is, we can't fight it." But Dana wasn't sure they were meant to. She looked down at the boy, sitting cross-legged in his glowing circle. "You said your father put you here. Why?" The boy glanced at the Watcher, trembling. "Because I was born different. He said I had something inside me. A piece of the gate." Dana blinked. "What gate?" "The seal," the boy said, voice hollow. "There are 7 in the world. They hold them back. But the seals are breaking. One by one." Garcia muttered, "This is insane." The boy's head tilted up. "I was born when the 6th seal broke. My dad said I was part of the 7th. Dana's knees buckled. She knelt beside the boy. "You're not the problem," she whispered. "You're the lock." He nodded. "And if they take me," he didn't have to finish. She understood now. If they took him, the 7th seal would fall. Whatever was behind it, whatever the Watchers were guarding against, would pour into this world like a tidal wave. She turned to the Watcher. "There has to be another way. Return the child to the source," the creature said in that terrible, ancient voice. "To the circle of roots. To the temple beneath the hill. Or the seal shatters and the veil is torn." Garcia looked at her like she'd lost her mind. "We're taking marching orders from a ghost?" Dana stood. "From whatever it is that's holding back something worse." The Watcher extended a hand. A glimmer of light formed in its palm, a glowing stone pendant on a rusted chain. It hovered in the air before them, the key. He must wear it. It binds him to the earth. Without it, the gate cannot be locked. Dana took the pendant, fingers tingling as they touched it. It was warm. Alive almost. She slipped it over the boy's head. The runes around him flared, then dimmed. "He's safe?" she asked. The Watcher gave no answer. Then, like smoke in reverse, it vanished. The shadows retracted. The cold lifted, and for a moment, it was just the 3 of them in the dead silence of the asylum's basement. Dana exhaled slowly. "We're not done." Garcia sat down against the wall, breathing heavily. "Yeah, no kidding." The boy looked up at her with eyes too wise for his age. "Will you take me to the circle of roots?" Dana nodded. "Where is it?" He pointed northeast toward the forest outside town. "Underneath Ashvale Hill. Where the old tree grows." She'd heard of it, an ancient place with stories of rituals and strange lights. But now it wasn't folklore. It was the only hope they had. As they climbed back toward the surface, the boy whispered one more thing that sent chills up Dana's spine. "They'll come again. Soon. Because now they know I'm awake." The journey to Ashvale Hill felt like a slow crawl towards something final, something ancient and watching. Dawn hadn't broken yet, but the horizon threatened light. Mist clung low to the forest floor as Dana guided the cruiser down an old logging road long abandoned by time. Garcia, still bruised and bleeding but too stubborn to stay behind, sat quietly in the passenger seat. The boy was in the back, head pressed to the window, staring at nothing. They reached the hill just as the first rays of gold cut through the trees. Ashvale Hill wasn't tall, but it had presence, like it had grown there before time began. At its summit stood a massive oak, twisted and blackened from lightning scars. It was older than the town, maybe older than the country. Beneath it, a strange formation of stones poked through the dirt, half buried in moss. The boy stepped from the car, as if in a trance. "This is the place," he whispered. Dana followed close, heart thudding. Garcia stayed near the car, radioing dispatch, though she doubted they'd be able to explain any of this. The boy knelt near the base of the tree and ran his fingers over the mossy stones. "They say this tree grew over the original gate," he said, "when the veil between the worlds was sealed the first time." Dana watched as he pressed his palm to the earth. The pendant around his neck began to glow, softly at first, then brighter. The ground rumbled. The stones began to shift. A circular staircase revealed itself beneath the roots, spiraling downward into the earth into pure darkness. You sure about this? Dana asked. The boy nodded. It's the only way. She gripped her flashlight and gun and led him down the stairs. With each step, the light above dimmed until they were swallowed by the earth. The tunnel opened into a vast underground chamber. The walls were carved with symbols she didn't recognize, some glowing faintly in the dark, others pulsing like a heartbeat. At the center of the chamber was a stone pedestal, and atop it, a bowl carved from obsidian. This is the anchor, the boy said. If I stay here, the gate stays closed. Dana's stomach turned. If you stay here? Alone? He nodded. It's what I was born for. No, she said firmly. There has to be another way. There isn't. Suddenly, the chamber trembled. Above them, the sound of wind, but wrong. Like breath moving through a mouth too large, too ancient. They're here, the boy said. Shadows poured from the walls, taller, faster, more aggressive. Dana raised her weapon and fired, but the bullets passed through them like mist. The boy climbed onto the pedestal as the shadows surged from every corner of the chamber. Dana stood between him and the oncoming darkness, flashlight beam flickering like a dying heartbeat. The pendant around the boy's neck burned with a blinding white light now, pulsing in rhythm with the symbols carved into the stone walls. Dana aimed her gun at the largest shadow. You want him? You come through me. But the shadow didn't speak. It didn't even slow down. It simply passed through her like ice water, chilling her to the core, and headed straight for the boy. He didn't flinch. Instead, he closed his eyes and whispered a word Dana didn't understand. A shockwave burst from the pedestal. The shadows reeled back, shrieking. Not in pain, but in rage. The chamber shook violently. Cracks split the ground beneath Dana's feet, and dust rained from above. Garcia's voice crackled through the radio on her hip. Dana, are you okay? What's going on down there? She couldn't answer. The boy began to rise into the air, his body lifted by unseen forces. The glowing pendant floated from his chest and hung suspended over the obsidian bowl, spinning faster and faster. Suddenly Dana saw them, the Watchers. Not just one. Not just two. But dozens. They appeared around the edge of the chamber like towering statues made of night, each with hollow eyes and spindly fingers that reached toward the light in reverence, not hunger. These were not the monsters. These were the guardians, and they had come to witness point. One of them stepped forward and spoke, not in sound, but in thought. He is the key and the lock. But the lock must be chosen. Dana stepped forward, breath-catching. He's just a boy. He didn't choose any of this. And yet he chooses now. The boy, still hovering, looked down at her, calm now. Peaceful. I'm not afraid, he said. Dana's voice cracked. You don't have to do this alone. His lips curled into the faintest smile. You helped me remember who I am. That's enough. The pendant stopped spinning. Then, like a sun imploding, it collapsed into itself and the room was engulfed in white. When Dana opened her eyes, she was lying at the base of Ashvale Hill. Garcia was beside her, eyes wide. You disappeared. For hours. What happened? She sat up slowly, head pounding. Where's the boy? Garcia hesitated, then shook his head. Dana, we never saw a boy. You left the asylum alone. She blinked. What? He pointed. Look. The old oak tree, blackened and cracked, now glowed faintly at its core. The roots had closed completely over where the stairs once were. There was no entrance. No gate. Only silence. Dana stared at it, overwhelmed by something she couldn't name, grief, awe, peace. Later, she'd write the report. She'd leave out most of the truth, but at night, she would sometimes hear whispers in her dreams and feel the warmth of a hand not her own. The mark may have been buried, but she would never forget the boy with the spiral on his forehead. The child who chose to save the world.